All right, we're back. We're going to give it a second for folks to join in. That was a huge mess. It looks like YouTube decided they were going to pop an advertisement in at the wrong time, and it created all sorts of different lag. I'm not too sure why. So we're going to restart everything. And it doesn't look like we're playing right now, unfortunately. What is happening right now? This is not the right time for this to be happening. I'm so confused right now. There we go. All right, let's get some people back in here. I'm going to delete that last live stream off of my channel, and we're just going to start from scratch. Let me go ahead and get over to content, go to lives. I apologize if you guys are in the chat. I'm not looking at it right now. I'm going to go ahead and delete that last one just so I can get it out of there. Edit, more actions. Hurry up, YouTube. Delete forever. Yes, we're going to delete forever. I don't really care about that one right now. I turned my monetization off just because I don't know what's happening. I don't know why it went ahead and kicked everybody out. I'm so sorry about that. We're just going to start from scratch. Anyways, this is the area that we're going to be tracking over the next several days, something that we brought to everyone's attention last week on Wxcenter once the GFS was really going very consistent with developing it. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I don't know what happened with that last one. It looks like YouTube put in an advertisement and it crashed the live. It unfortunately crashed the live. On my side, anyways, I don't know if you guys could still hear me, but on this side, the screen said error occurred, unable to stream, so I had to go ahead and close everything out. I do apologize. This is going to be our main live stream now. Hopefully we don't run into any other issues. I went ahead and turned monetization off. That's not a big deal. I don't really care about that right now. I just don't want the live stream to get crashed out again. So, weather trackers I did, are you referring to the 18Z, the area of interest in the Caribbean reminds you of Hurricane Lenny? Yeah, there's going to be a lot of research going on in the background over here in the Weather Center to try to digest exactly what kind of a setup we have going on. For those of you getting back into the stream, we'll give it a second. This is the one we want to watch. This could be our main heavy hitter. There's a lot of solutions that have it wandering to the north, potentially affecting the Cayman Islands, Cuba. A lot of solutions calling for a major hurricane hitting the Bahamas, the extreme southern tip of Florida. We'll go back over to the GFS here in a second. Today we're going to pull the Band-Aid off and kind of discuss exactly what the possibilities for this system look like. Because I'll tell you the truth, after exploring the possibilities over the last few days, there are a lot of solutions that would suggest this could be a strong system. And when I say strong, I mean, you know, a hurricane. I'm not going major hurricane. I'm not going anything too crazy like that. But we could definitely get a hurricane out of this, 100%, just based on all the different dynamics that I popped off. Obviously, it goes without saying we have the hot water. That's a given. It's been there all season long. It hasn't been tapped. It hasn't had anything happen with it. We definitely have our upper level influence, very good. There's not going to be a whole lot of wind shear out there. There's really no wind shear out there right now. There's a little bit of residual shear associated with that cold pocket, or I should say now just that upper tropospheric trough that's helping to try to get this 96L spun up, but I don't think anything's going to come of that. I really didn't think anything was going to come from it. It didn't look all that impressive. It was an area of really disorganized thunderstorm activity, a reflection of that upper low scattering down to the surface, drawing in all that moisture that's been funneling up from the south between our two high height centers. Our subtropical ridge is the one over the southeast and the one out over the Atlantic. And it's the one out over the Atlantic that's really helping to pull things around it. It's this one in question right here. I want you guys to watch the anticyclonic flow around this. And for those of you rejoining us in Antigua, Barbuda, and the rest of the Lesser Antilles, this is half of the reason why you guys have been underneath such really, really bad thunderstorms and rainfall for the last several days. Because you have two of these high height centers spinning around like this. So if you draw the streamlines with it, you have all this confluent flow right in through here. So all the different interactions between air mass 1, we'll say, and air mass 2 is just going to collide, and that air has nothing better to do besides continue to go up, and that's exactly why we've had such consistent thunderstorm activity out there. Add to it, we have that upper level low that wandered its way down from the mid-latitudes and then kind of accelerated the transition of Tammy from a tropical to a post-tropical system. So there's a lot going on in the dynamics right now. We have all this leftover vorticity that has just been creating havoc down there. And you go through time and you can see that we have a whole lot of vorticity from another little piece of breakaway energy that's coming across this zonal flow. The zonal flow is what's doing us in. This is what I was explaining, I believe, on either Thursday or Friday in one of my videos. That zonal flow is what's doing us in. So you have these subtropical ridges. You have a ridge here, and then you have a ridge here, and the steering flow obviously is around both of them like so. And what's happening is, since these ridges are not moving anywhere, they're kind of converging into one big old thing. As the vorticity couplets, these little areas of red, yellow, orange, all in through here, continue to move through our west to east polar front jet pattern, the ridges are helping to cycle through that. They're cycling through it. And if you watch, I'll clear the ink real quick, and as you go through time, take a look at our Atlantic ridge as it finally combines with that one that's been situated over top of the southeast, giving us all this dry air and high wind speeds. Look at all that vorticity that comes around the backside of it. You see that? We get another ridge. We finally have that trough helping to evacuate the one over the southeast. That's what's eventually going to turn off our heavy rain, our thunderstorm threat for Puerto Rico and further to the east and our Lesser Antilles. Once that trough can come down, bring that frontal system down over Halloween into the beginning parts of November, that's going to evacuate the ridge over the southeast. The other one's going to merge with it because it's the weaker of the two. It's been out there modifying for a very long time. And then if you watch what happens, you have all this leftover vorticity that was trying to deepen down into something else in the long wave pattern while it was still zonal. So as that trough comes in and kind of messes everything up, the ridge is going to move to the east, and all this vorticity is going to have only one direction to go, either to the east or down to the south, and a lot of it migrates down to the south. So now if you look out over the tropics, look at all this vorticity. Let me clear the ink one last time, and I'll draw it in my black. I'll go a little bit bigger so you guys can see. Look at all this vorticity right there. All this upper level rotation. This is rotation at 500 This is rotation at 500 millibars, and that's what I think the GFS is calling for that could develop as it moves through our very favorable environment out there in the Caribbean. I mean, you just look at this right now. We don't usually use 500 millibars to show whether or not an area is favorable for thunderstorm, or I should say tropical development. But I mean, you look at this and you could see it plain as day. You have this trough coming in right here. We have the ridge wrapping around like this. So all this down here is neutral area. That's all free game right over top the Caribbean. In fact, you can see some anticyclonic flow already in the upper levels in our wind barbs out here. So that's definitely an area ready to rock and roll for tropical development. And that's why I think National Hurricane Center is finally on the ball with it. That's why I wasn't going to drop my guns and, holster them, if you will, in terms of saying we need to watch what happens after that first area that was highlighted. Because you take this through time and you see you have all that vorticity going out there, and it really rapidly consolidates, and then there you have it. It gets pulled up just barely to the south of Florida. Now, do I see this happening? Absolutely. Can I see that happening? Definitely. What I truly believe is our margin of error currently. We'll zoom in down to that area just so we can get a better idea. We'll go back to when it initially starts forming. And there's three areas that I really want us to focus on. I have it written in my notes. We have our long wave pattern, number one. We'll take you there in a second so we can discuss exactly how the long wave pattern is going to play a role in this. We have our second front, not the first one. This first one is what's going to give us some energy down there, and the frontal tail is going to be down in a favorable area to receive that upper level vorticity and get something down in the surface level spinning. And then number three, our earlier high pressure. Okay, so we have so many different variables here. When I say earlier high pressure, I'm talking about this guy right here, that one. Let's go to the Canadian model. The Canadian model for the last couple days has been great in highlighting the differences between our end results. So this is 12Z from the 28th. This is 12Z from yesterday. And if you watch what happens as the Canadian model tries to get something going down in the south here, this is one possible solution, which is why the earlier high pressure that's down there, this 1019 high, is going to be extremely critical to watch. So as that vacates out and our next frontal system comes in, notice how we have a little bit of surface high pressure ridging trying to nudge its way back in and meet up with this 1030 high coming down with our Halloween frontal system. I know this is after Halloween, but that's what I'm going to call it, our Halloween frontal system, because a lot of other people, like 90% of the U.S., is going to see it. Notice how when that frontal tail gets down to the south that the Canadian model does want to develop something, but notice that as those high pressures meet, we get that very same confluent boundary right in through there. You have all of our equatorial tropical air trying to move in, but it's butting right up against all this modified polar air that came down with our huge cold plunge. Same situation that we have happening right now. The only difference is with what's happening over our islands, that boundary is here. Same concept, though. Same concept. And the Canadian solution for the last few days has been that high pressure, see that? High pressure over the south is not going to modify out. It's not going to continue off to the east. It's going to stay there. And as a result, notice what happens to our system. So the Canadian model has been calling for development too. It's on board with something forming down there, but it has it going straight in and disappearing and dying because this high pressure to the north is not going to allow anything past it. This was the Canadian model's force field. And you could see that all the prevailing wind flow is out of the east. So all those storms that are coming across the Caribbean, we're not going to have a whole lot of time to develop. And they're just going to blast through Central America, give them another rain threat, another potential for flash flooding, unfortunately. They've seen enough of that almost all hurricane season long. I feel like they've been down there battling on and off thunderstorms and flood conditions for, I want to say, maybe a little over a month now, since I know late September when the gyre was coming back into play. The reason I'm doing this live stream is not only because of the GFS being back in business in terms of forecasting our hurricane again, is if you come over to 12Z of the Canadian model now does definitely see formation right there, just as it always has, but look at what it does to our high pressure now. 1034 high, sitting over the southeast, mid-Atlantic states, still providing us with a force field barrier. You take it through time, and now the Canadian model is also on board with it starting to migrate. Look at this upstream frontal system, that secondary front I just mentioned in my notes. The second frontal system and that trough is what's critical in this whole thing. There goes our high. Notice how now the Canadian model, as of today, no longer has our high parked over the southeast. It has moved. It is now our Bermuda high. And as a result, look at what that system does to the south. Weaker solution, definitely a weaker solution. It has it going Idalia almost. If you guys remember, Idalia was supposed to be parked over the Yucatan Peninsula, and we weren't really going to get a whole lot from it. All the models were thinking that Idalia was going to come through and marinate over the land before finally jutting into the Gulf of Mexico and trying to become a tropical storm. That didn't happen. We're not going to go into that level of specificity here. Specificity with this storm. I'm not going to say whether or not it's going to be over land or right over here. That's too high definition or high resolution for right now. But notice how now the Canadian model is no longer on board with this. It is now on board with something like this happening. So it goes without saying we definitely have a lot to dig into over the next few days, and I wouldn't be surprised if the European model is also calling for something like this with all the probabilities we've been seeing. I have it pulled up over here. Let me see. Yep, I have it pulled up here so we could see the very back end of what this run is doing. And already, you go through this loop and take a look at the exact same time GFS is calling for it. We already have a low starting to spin up right there. So Euro 12Z is on board with cyclogenesis, albeit weak, right on cue with where the GFS has been calling for it for the last several days. And you go through time. This is all brand spanking new to me, too. I haven't looked at this yet. So yeah, see, the Euro model doesn't really, can't really see anything. The Euro looks like it wants to keep it very weak and not do a whole lot with it. Let's use mean sea level pressure, see if we can track this through. So there's our system. You can see it's spinning up, plain as day. It's down there. But Euro doesn't look like it wants anything to come of it. Euro wants it to just crash into Central America. So I'm not too sure why it's doing that still. It doesn't make any sense. If you look to the north, there's a clear channel right in through here for that thing to travel north. I don't know why the Euro still wants it to do that as opposed to do this. So, I can't rhyme with that or reason with that. But what we can do now is take a look at our European ensembles as they continue to populate. Because truthfully, I'm not going to lie, I know that a lot of people are probably going to throw some shade at me for saying this, but I don't trust that solution of the Euro. I definitely do not trust that solution. We have literally every other model calling for something to stay organized and potentially bounce back to the north, whether it be over Florida or potentially over the Cayman Islands, Cuba, and into the Bahamas. So I think we're going to see adjustments with that as we go through time. Let's see what the Euro ensembles are thinking. So there's our cyclogenesis. Yeah, see, the ensembles make a lot more sense. Let's zoom in a little bit. Let's go down to the Caribbean. These are our 12Z Euro ensembles, and there's cyclogenesis right about the same time the operational model's calling for it. There's one strong solution that tracks it right into Nicaragua and Honduras right there, the one member that does that. But then if you go forward in time a little bit more, all the rest of our ensembles, see that? All the ensembles from the Euro want to take it to the north. And what's a little more concerning about the Euro solution is it's a little weaker, but a lot of them have it bullseyeing not only the Cayman Islands, Cuba, but also South Florida. So, I think we're going to see an adjustment in the Euro. There's too much consistency out there with all of our other models and its own ensembles for us to not see something happen. See, the control member doesn't really have a whole lot happening. It does have something forming, and then we don't really get it out of that general source region, which, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Maybe because the Euro was thinking it's going to stay very weak, so it's just going to crash and burn and die out once it gets into Central America. But the rest of the pattern, makes sense for it to drift to the north because there's our low, 1,006 millibar depression, disturbance, whatever you want to call it, moving through. And then right about the time that it could lift north, notice how all of our darker orange colors right here, that high pressure that's coming in behind our Halloween frontal system starts to migrate out. We replace it with lighter oranges to yellows, and then there's our next frontal system. That gateway, that GFS Canadian model are also thinking that could take this thing to the north. So we'll stay on the live long enough and see exactly what happens with the rest of our ensembles. I want to run this until 4, like our traditional tropics talk, so we can maybe get a few more people in here to talk about this. But preliminary forecast, let's say, for our first potential end game, I'm going to go ahead and draw this right now in some giant markers. In fact, I'm going to go even bigger than that for the heck of it. Right now, based off of what we're seeing, whether it stays organized or not, we're saying, this is anything. I'm not talking about hurricane, tropical storm, or just disorganized area in the pattern. These are my areas that really need to be watching it closely. This is like my forecasted cone, if you will. That's my preliminary forecast cone. Some ensembles, I'll go smaller ink here, some ensembles think it could drift to the north faster and become a Jamaica, Eastern Cuba problem. I don't think that's going to happen. I definitely don't think that's going to happen. With that high pressure to the north coming down with our first frontal system, it's going to be too dense, too strong to modify out that quickly and allow it to escape to the north very quickly. I don't trust it either. I agree. Weather trackers, Idalia's damage reflected the stronger storm. Yep, I think it will affect Jamaica, Cayman, and Cuba. Jamaica could see some rain from it, but I don't think Jamaica is going to be under the gun for any big impacts. I really don't think so. A lot of our model solutions indicate that it's going to continue to drift west, ride in the backside or the south side of that high pressure that's coming down currently over the United States, getting ready to plunge through most of the Great Plains, the Southern Plains, and then try to make it through us before Halloween. But I think that very, very potent polar high, some people are calling it Arctic. I still think it's polar. I can't look at the jet level isotherms. I don't have that tool like I used to in Air Force weather. So either way, it's a lot of cold air. And with a lot of cold air, it's going to take a little bit longer to modify out. So I don't think it's going to migrate or move away soon enough for it to become a Dominican Republic, a Puerto Rico, or a Jamaica, Eastern Bahamas, Turks and Caicos Island problem. That's why I have my big black thing here highlighting the Cayman Islands, Cuba, the Yucatan, Belize. Even Nicaragua, Honduras could see something from it if it does inevitably crash into it. And then the southern tip of Florida, the southern half of Florida. So unfortunately, I know a lot of you guys have been mentioning stop hyping up a storm for Fort Myers, Charlotte Harbor, but I'm going off of what I'm seeing right now. And I'm still seeing a lot of people online and on other weather sources mentioning maybe something to watch, maybe a little something, and I don't want to say little anymore. There's too much variety in all of our data to suggest that we should be broadcasting a little thing. I don't want to hype it up into something big. I'm not saying that that's where I'm leaning, but we need to start exploring everything with this because we've had too much consistency. We've had too many different models indicating we could have something strong, something weak. There's a huge margin of error here, not only in track, but in intensity. Formation, we're just about 90% of the way there. I do think we're going to get an area developing down there within the next couple of days. It's only within 3 days now, we'll say 3 days at the earliest is when we could finally see a low pressure getting started out there. So it's time we start exploring what could possibly happen, who could possibly get hit hard, and when. Let's hit a refresh, get a couple more panels in here, and yeah, you could see the Euro Ensemble. I think the deterministic model is going to change up. The deterministic model has to change up because look at these ensembles. These are our Euro ensembles calling for something strong now too. It's a little difficult to see, but we're in the white color coding at this point within the green. So I know that you have the lighter shadings on the outside of our green blobs, but for example, on this panel here, I'm going to hold it right there. You see that one member where it has white shading? If I come over to my chart, or my color code over here, that's already a 980 millibar Category 1, maybe even borderline Category 2 hurricane. So the Euro is now on board with thinking this thing could get strong, and it could get strong quick. So unlikely any South Florida storm happening, probably a low-pressure system. See, I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that. I'm not saying it's going to be strong. I'm not saying it's going to be weak. I'm exploring all possibilities. I'm not going to broadcast one way or another. I'm exploring everything in this live stream. There's too much evidence to suggest that we could go as far as a hurricane, but there's also some evidence in our upper air pattern that this may not be anything at all. There's a huge spread in it, and I don't think a lot of people are talking enough about this spread. They're highlighting what National Hurricane Center is saying and saying maybe a little low, but we're going to explore one end of the spectrum over to the other. We can go as far as saying a major hurricane. We can go as far as saying this is going to be a busted forecast. We're not going to get anything out of it. Again, that's the main reason I'm here in the live stream, is we've had so much compounding evidence that we're going to see something form. So now, before we get into a full-fledged new week and we start to see things boil, I want to start exploring whether or not it's going to be nothing or if it's going to be big, because we're in too heavily of a populated area. Too heavily of a populated area to just kind of dismiss it and say, nah, nothing's happening. If it were another Philippe, Rena, another Tammy even, to where we're arguing and splitting hairs as to whether or not an island or two is going to get hit or it's not going to do anything, okay, yeah, I wouldn't be wasting my breath. But the fact that we're starting here and the only room for this thing to track is through hundreds, if not thousands of people, we got to start talking about it and getting ahead of it before people get caught with their pants down. Scrooge McDuck, I saw your comment. Yeah, UK Med is on board with it. We'll go over there right now. We'll go look at that here in a moment. We'll let the European ensembles come back a little bit or populate a little bit more. Brian, I know you're going to ask if you're still in the chat. The Korean model's on board with it too. Korean model calls for a weaker solution hitting Florida, believe it or not. So let's go to 850 millibar wind. 12Z is not in yet. We'll go to 0Z, but you track this through and take a look. The UK model definitely has something forming up. It's a very broad area of low pressure, right at about the 4th to 5th, but there's a huge area of low pressure forming up down there. Very curious to see what 12Z shows, especially since this is only a mid-range model. We can't go far out with this. The Icon model as well. Let me go over to Icon real quick. Icon model at 12Z definitely has something coming together as well. Right around the same time the GFS is calling for it too, which is very, very interesting. Right there, guys. If you remember when I showed you the 12Z right out of the gate during the start of the live stream, the GFS said we could have cyclogenesis as early as the 1st or the 2nd, and the Icon is actually vibing with that really well. The Icon has a little low area, low pressure moving to the south of Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, and then you see it consolidating into something big before it crashes into Central America. See, in this solution here, the Icon doesn't think that high pressure is going to be broken down. The Icon has a high right there, so all this boundary is still in place. So there's a lot up in the air right now, a lot up in the air, and that's why this live stream is catered to everybody that this could possibly affect, and we're going to explore all the possibilities and get talking about it now so that we're not surprised when something turns into something else. Ethan, this is weathermodels.com. I love this website. It's a paid subscription, unfortunately, so unless you're wanting to do a $15 a month subscription, this is not free to the public. There's a few different overlays that are free to the public, but not all of them. But I like this website because not only does Euro come in earlier, but we also get a lot more Ensemble products, a little bit more clear of Ensemble products and probability charts. Look at all those things. It's going to be a good old slobber knocker, folks. It could be. Jamaica should still keep watching it, even if it doesn't make landfall conditions. Oh, yeah, of course. I'm not saying don't pay any attention to it at all. What I'm saying is in terms of like a direct hit or any kind of major impacts, I'm thinking just to the west of Jamaica. A lot of our ensembles think that this could be a projected window of movement. Florida may not get anything outside of the outer bands, the weaker side of it. A lot of our ensembles do think that the storm, if it does organize, could track off like this, missing Florida and getting pulled out rapidly with our next frontal system and trough. So the only reason I say we have to watch Florida too still is if this doesn't blow up, if this doesn't go major hurricane or anything strong. Obviously, we know the frontal system is not going to pick it up. The trough is not going to pick it up. It could still find a weakness in the steering pattern and drift to the north. For Brian's sake, I'll pull up the Korean model because I know we like looking at that as well. The Korean model is ebbing and flowing with the rest of our models as well. It's not pulling up anything crazy or disturbing or outlandish. You go to 10-meter wind, this is our 12Z run, and you look, and you could see that we're still looking at a wave traveling through, deepening in the southern Caribbean. There it is. This solution has it crashing into Central America, but then as that high recedes, look at how it comes to the north. There we go. Very, very disorganized, but it tracks in, it goes in, and then goes across South Florida like so. Track it through to the end of the loop, and bam, there's the center, moves across, and at the end of the loop, it's parked somewhere right in through here over the Bahamas. This could be like a South Florida, Lake Okeechobee, Florida Keys kind of situation with that next frontal system coming down, trying to grab it. I saw a few people mentioning Wilma in the chat. It is kind of reminiscent of Wilma. It's a little reminiscent of Eta and the Cuban hurricane track, or a few of the Cuba hurricane tracks down there. So it's anybody's best guess. That's why I really want us to be focusing on it in the Central Florida Peninsula, all through this general area. Weather trackers, if you're on here, I'm still including Jamaica in the area that should watch and monitor what happens, but in terms of where it realistically could track, it's going to be somewhere right in through here. Somewhere right in through there, where I have my giant arrow drawn. I'll use a different marker so you guys can see. Right in through here is where I'm thinking is like a preliminary forecast, if we get something to organize. Jacob, exactly. I definitely agree. Look at the GFS model last night. Yeah, we'll go ahead and pull it up. The GFS model last night was really, really crazy. Once again, let's go to 0Z. Let me go to precip and moisture. We'll go to 0Z last night. Same thing, forming up cyclogenesis. Very, very powerful hurricane. Powerful hurricane getting picked up and quick. Because I've seen this solution every now and again as well. We'll have to, this is where I go back to saying we have to watch what's happening here. I know this is a very weird overlay for what's going on, but we have to watch all of this. This here is what is going to impact whatever happens down here. So if you see anybody out there mentioning we have to watch what's happening down here or the high pressure and all that, that's like 30% of the equation. That's 30% of the equation. Because yes, like I mentioned, we have our earlier high pressure that's coming down right now, this trough right here. As it continues to sink, this is going to be the first, like Jacob was saying, the first inhibitor to allowing it to move to the north. If that high pressure does stay parked past November 6th, 7th, 8th, etc., nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen. It's going to crash into Central America, and we don't have to worry about this. We can just kind of say bon voyage to hurricane season, because I don't really predict anything's going to come right after this. And then by the time we get done with this solution, we already have 3 weeks left of the season, so I personally don't think we're going to have anything to talk about after this is all said and done, especially since 96L is going to be a non-factor here within the next like 2 to 3 days. It's going to be gone altogether. National Hurricane Center is already bringing down the probabilities that that's going to form up. But this is going to be a tricky forecast situation. It's going to be very tricky. We can't go one way or another with it just yet, because we have one. Well, actually, let me go ahead and do this the right way. We have 1, we have 2, and then we have 3, and then we have 4 different areas, all over thousands of miles, that we need to continue to track. If you guys watched my Friday episode, I think it was my Friday episode. Yeah, Friday afternoon episode, I'd mentioned how the GFS suddenly switched up and it stopped making that hurricane go to the north and so on. That's because of what's happening out here. Right here in the jet flow is our jet max. And what it's doing is it's deepening this trough and helping to amplify this ridge right in through here, the ridge building over western Conus. That's going to kind of give the western United States a bit of a warmer, milder Halloween. And then this trough here is bringing down our major high pressure. We'll switch over to WPC so you guys can see from a more official standpoint. Here we go. Let's go to WPC. Let me clear my ink out of the way. Go to fronts. This is Halloween night right here, guys. 0Z Wednesday. This is 8 p.m. Tuesday. So this is Halloween night. Excuse me. This is going to be the first area we really want to pay close attention to. This 1031 high that's going to try to sink way down to the south. And if you finish going through their charts, their forecast mock, see that? See this right here. I'll go ahead and clear the ink. This big old thing. That's number one, what we need to monitor as that system down to the south gets going. If you imagine, I'll go ahead and draw it hypothetically. We'll go ahead and do this. Here's our Caribbean. Here's Dominican Republic. Here's Puerto Rico. Here's our Lesser Antilles. Here's the Yucatan, Central America, and all that good jazz, and so on and so forth. This high pressure parked over the southeast and the mid-Atlantic states on the 2nd of November. This is as that thing gets going and starts pushing to the west. So if WPC, see WPC, that's concerning. WPC thinks that this is going to weaken down and modify. So by the 5th, we're already seeing it starting to wash out, which means that as this system continues to move, we're going to start seeing an area open up to the west. So WPC is already forecasting based off what they're thinking that high pressure is going to modify and quickly get moving. And you take a look, and this is also what the GFS was calling for. I know we're looking at the surface here, but once you get an idea of how synoptic meteorology works, you can draw where the jet is just by looking at a surface chart. Here's a ridge still over the western United States, and here's our next trough trying to deepen down. That's why you have the fronts moving to the north. You have your triple point there, and then you have the back side of the front side of the ridge, our low pressure systems dipping down and moving to the south-southeast. So maybe that's why WPC thinks that high pressure is going to modify and continue moving off to the east a little bit faster. This is going to be our next setup that we have to watch. How far to the south this frontal system decides to come, or if this decides to become anything supported by the subtropical jet. This low with, come on, ink. This low with troughs attached to it is going to move this way as well. So Idalia was undergoing an eye-wall replacement cycle before it hit landfall. It was, definitely. Cat 4 that weakens to a Cat 3 landfall is worse because the energy has somewhere to go. That is true. Might add, too, there is some good precedent. These cold fronts can take a little more time than a miles project to make it all the way down there. Also very tough. Yeah, it's going to be a very, very tough forecast. Very. Once we have a surface low coming together, it'll be a little bit easier because we'll get some of the high-res data. Hopefully, they'll get some reconnaissance aircraft in it quick. So are we in a positive NA or negative NA? I want to say we're in a negative right now. I want to say we're in a negative. I haven't looked at that. The only thing I've been looking at are the El Nino trends, as well as what's going on with our Madden Julian. And the Madden Julian is right overhead as we speak. I doubt that Hurricane Otis made landfall as a Cat 4 based on the pictures of damages coming out of Acapulco. No, I'm pretty certain it went ashore as a Cat 5. I'm pretty sure it went ashore as a Cat 5. That was what reports were saying. But yeah, guys, so we have a lot of different things to dig into. We'll go back to the satellite. What's going on down there right now? If you look, it's almost like clockwork. We're going to see something form up. In fact, you can already kind of see an anticyclone starting to build in. You can see how a lot of that this is upper level water vapor. You can see how a lot of the upper level water vapor shows that the stuff over Puerto Rico, the Lesser Antilles, is already drifting to the south. And look at all this thunderstorm action coming off of South America, moving in to the Caribbean. So we already have that upper level anticyclone starting to come together. That's the first big piece of the puzzle in terms of if you're going to see something strengthening. You need that good divergent flow in the upper levels, and we already have it starting to come together. Let's see, what else do we want to look at? Let's go back to our ensembles real quick. In fact, let's go to our GFS ensembles for 12Z. I haven't had a chance to look at that. I think they were still populating. Here we go, 12Z ensembles. So you take it through time, losing confidence that 96L is going to do anything, taking it through. Oh, yeah, look at that. A little less agreement, I'll tell you the truth, a little less agreement from what we saw at 6Z. 6Z was looking very bad. 6Z had almost all the GFS members flying through. Look at that. 6Z looked very, very, very scary. And I think 0Z looked a lot of the same. Now, 0Z looked a lot more like 12Z does now. Only problem is 0Z definitely had Florida out of the realm of impact, and now clear shift in ensemble thinking. It's crazy. The ensembles are right on track with what I was just mentioning a couple seconds ago. You'd think I know a thing or two. But this is not good. I don't like seeing this at all. And that's why we're here on the live stream. We need to be talking about this, and we need to be talking about it in every way, shape, or form. We need to be exploring every possibility with it. We don't have time. We don't have the opportunity right now to sit back and say, we'll talk about it when it's there, because when it's there, if it's in a favorable setup, it's going to blow the heck up. And there's too many people in its way for us to just sit down and kind of wait and see. That's the main reason I wanted to jump in here and have this live stream today, to get people's eyes on it, for people to talk and watch this live stream. Even if they come in and say that I'm hyping, I'd rather people looking and seeing that we have something versus no one saying anything at all, because we're still very wishy-washy with even saying to people we need to be watching down there. I think we definitely need to be watching, and we should have been watching yesterday when the GFS started popping off with all the consistency that it did. It's very rare to see the GFS do that. The GFS usually wants to go 0 and 12, yeah, and then the next day, nothing at all. And I know on Thursday when we made our video first discussing the idea of a hurricane popping off out there, the GFS made that big change, and it made a justified change. The thing is, you can't focus on the storm itself. You have to look at everything happening, because there's a reason the models will show something and then not show something, and I immediately discovered why it switched up, and now it's because the steering pattern had something coming together right about here, but then crashing into Central America and nothing happened. That's why it looked like the GFS got rid of it. It didn't get rid of it. It was still down there. It just didn't have time to really blow up and blossom. In fact, let's see if we can still go back in time on GFS. We can. So here's 12Z on Thursday. As we all know, there it is. Big old hurricane coming towards Florida. Boom, Category 3 rolling in the same general area as Ian did. Now, watch closely. We're going to go back to the beginning. You see that low pressure moving in? Barely misses Central America, moves just to the north, and then gets grabbed by our opening here. You see this big old channel right there. There's its way to track. You have high pressure right through here, and then our low beginning to form up right there. So there's its path of least resistance, blam, right there. Clear, distinct track. You can forecast that with your eyes closed. Now, take a look at the big difference when we go to, we'll say, 0Z on Friday. Notice the difference. See how now we have low pressure here? So there's like a little weak tunnel right there, but then we have all this high pressure still here, and all this high pressure still here. So as it forms up, it's still down there. You see, right there. It's still there. It still forms in the Southern Caribbean, but it crashes. See that? Just as it tries to strengthen, because we have all this high pressure. See that? 1032 high doesn't get out of the way. We think that the GFS initially was thinking we were going to have more of a zonal pattern, so the system wasn't going to vacate out, and as a result, it formed up and just boom, kamikazed right into Honduras, Nicaragua, and parts of Belize, right there. So it was still down there, but it didn't have a chance to do anything. So the GFS has definitely been onto something. And for the first time, it looks like GFS is making sense with the long wave pattern and with every new model run that it gets fresh analysis data in. Just happened to my bottle. So yeah, I'm really not liking what the ensembles are doing though, because it makes a lot of sense. If you'll notice, we can't zoom in, unfortunately, but if you notice right through here, where it has the opportunity to stay over open water and take full advantage of all the favorable conditions, that's where every single GFS model goes Cat 4 or stronger. And that can be very dangerous for our guys out there in the Cayman Islands, Cuba, and then the Bahamas. Not so much Florida. Not so much Florida. And that's why, I'm not trying to focus mainly on Florida. I'm looking out for our guys down there in the islands. Because if this thing does find an opportunity, like Jacob was even saying in the chat, if this thing finds an opportunity to strengthen off to the east and stay over the hottest water, you're not going to have very much time to do anything out there in Jamaica, in the Cayman Islands, let alone even in Cuba. Cuba, maybe, because some of our latest models do indicate that as we're transitioning between steering patterns, it could try to slow down a little bit. Worst case scenario for our islands, better case scenario for Florida, the Bahamas, and Cuba, because it'll take a little bit more time to get up there. Bad scenario for Central America, bad scenario for Jamaica and the Cayman Islands, because then you're just going to have whatever the hell that thing is just parked and just situating, either bubbling over the water like Adalia did earlier this year, or maybe, not organizing and taking a little bit longer to organize, but regardless, you're going to be feeling impacts. So I'm not liking the trends here. This is a very bad setup, and that's why we really want to start paying close attention to it. We've only seen models get more on board with it, too. It's not like we have only a couple things that would suggest we're going to see development down there. We have a lot of models on board with development. Now it's a matter of discussing how much development are we going to get out of it. Here's the full run of our European ensembles. So there you go. We have some strong solutions forming up. Yeah. I mean, the writing's on the wall. I don't even have to narrate that. You guys can see what's going on there. We have a threat for Cayman, Cuba, Florida, Bahamas. The Euro is definitely adamant that the Florida coastline needs to watch this. The Euro is very adamant that everybody in West and South Florida needs to pay close attention. Ironically, from the Tampa-St. Pete area all the way down to the Keys, they need to be watching closely. Even right here where I have the loop paused on the 8th of November, 12Z, look at that. We have a tropical storm moving over South Florida, kind of getting ready to exit off the Boca Raton, what is that, West Palm Beach, Port St. Lucie area, just to the south of the Space Coast. We have a tropical storm on one of the Ensemble members here, moving across Florida right there. And then there's some stronger solutions that want to come up through South Florida. We have one that's in the blue, so that's already approaching Cat 2, Cat 3 strength. We have another Ensemble, Cat 2, Cat 3 strength, another one Cat 2, Cat 3 strength. So even the Euro is on board with could be nothing, it could be a major hurricane, and that's bad. That's, when you have that spread, you got to mention everything. You can't say, oh, well, half the ensembles are saying, nothing, so we're just going to stay on the weak side for now. No, because when you have all of your models going all the way from tropical nothing to Cat 3, Cat 4, with so many people in its way, we don't have time. We don't have, this is not a Cabo Verde setup to where we have days to get ahead of it and explore ensembles. If something does fire off, we're going to have to just, it's all hands on deck immediately, and we have to start forecasting it out pronto. So, and these are the Euro ensembles. So, seeing great consistency between the Euro and the GFS ensembles. I really want to see the probabilities. I want the probabilities to populate before we end the stream, because the probabilities have also been what's got my attention big time. Cyclones, we'll go to Tropical Atlantic, 12Z. Nope, see, 12Z hasn't come in. But this is where it gets very interesting. We'll zoom into the Caribbean and we'll go 0Z. So if you guys remember on 12 Zulu, I didn't get a chance to have it in my video, but 12Z was really going gung-ho with developing something. Look at that. See, this is already 5 days out on November 3rd. We're already past the 50% threshold. We're going into the 60% threshold right there. We're definitely in the 65, 70, and then look at that. We're already all the way up to almost 80% that we're going to see something develop down there. Weather trackers, I see your comment. We haven't gotten to 18Z yet. 18Z is not coming out until after 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but I'm going to look at it. You best believe I'm going to look at it. I promise I'm not ignoring you, buddy. I just, we're not there yet. But that's what's concerning. And, I took it with a grain of salt, like I always do, because sometimes, you get one random run of the GFS, one random run of the Euro, to where all of a sudden the probabilities are like this. And then we've all seen it before. You wake up the next day and now we're down here again. So maybe we sounded the alarm too soon. We should have waited a little bit. But what's concerning is you go to 0Z. And look at 0Z. Same exact thing. As of November 4th, 0Z, we're already up to 65, 70% chance. And then boom, look at that big old area of 75, 80% chance of development a little bit further to the east of Nicaragua, Honduras. And then what's crazy is you look at these ensembles too, and look at how they all fan out in this general direction. This is not the actual ensemble plots. These are just probabilities, but you can kind of deduce exactly what direction they're thinking it's going to move just looking at the milky colors and the cloudiness. And you look at that, and a lot of the ensemble probabilities have it tracking up either like this or like that. So oh, yeah, PEXT, this would definitely be an impactful year. This would be not as frequently, because if you guys go way back almost 20 years ago to 2004, everybody got a taste of hurricane season multiple times in Florida. In 2004, we had Charlie in the south, we had Francis and Jean on the east twice, and then we had Ivan in the panhandle. So everybody in 2004 in Florida was banged up pretty bad. This year, it wouldn't be as bad. We'd have half the impacts. Oh, no, excuse me, 5. I forgot. On a live stream, we discovered that Tropical Storm Bonnie hit around the same general area as Idalia did, so we had 5 impacts that year. I almost forgot about that. This would still technically be an impactful year because you had something in the panhandle, and then if something came down from the south, Central Florida would see a lot more action too. So, yeah. It'd be unfortunate because Florida would be the only area outside of Texas with, Harold, that weak tropical storm earlier in this year. Florida would be the only one taking the brunt of big stuff because we had Major Hurricane Idalia and then whatever the heck this is. I know we had Tropical Storm Ophelia over the mid-Atlantic states, but, that I still have my qualms with, but nevertheless, it was an impact. So the mid-Atlantic states had their tropical storm. Texas had their tropical storm. We might have another hurricane for Florida. And I'm saying might. We're just exploring possibilities here. Francis and Jean hit within 2 weeks of each other, made landfall in the same spot. Yep. Pretty much verbatim, right on top of each other. I remember WFTV had an overlay of radar, and you couldn't, it was, I think, within like 20 miles or something like that. Just like it was, I think, within 10, 20 miles where Charlie had made landfall where around Ian did last year in 2022. Everybody and everything is at play. Yeah, Hurricane Ivan was my worst hurricane I experienced. I believe that came aboard as a Cat 3 or a Cat 4 major hurricane. We had nothing but major hurricanes that year in Florida. Like 2004 was really bad. Tropical Storm Bonnie was like a precursor, and then Charlie was obviously a borderline Cat 5. It was a Cat 4. Then we had Francis and Jean that came ashore. They were weakening. They were very broad storms. I remember both of them had huge eyes on them. You could see that the eyes were like somewhere between 50, 60 miles wide. They were big, but they were so slow moving that the flooding in Florida was miserable. And they took almost 2 to 3 days to finally get the heck out of there. And it goes without saying, we had Ivan, another major hurricane that hit the panhandle. So, Carmen, welcome in. Good to see you. You missed a bit. You definitely missed a bit, but we'll catch you up for sure. I really want 12Z probabilities to come in, though. I really do. Even at 12 Zulu yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, you go to the end, and yeah, look at that. Even 12Z yesterday had a huge fanning out of our ensembles doing this. So if I have people, we have 168 people in here. I wish we had more. I hope more people watch this after we're all said and done. But Jamaica, Cayman Islands, Cuba, outer lying Cuban Islands, Bahamas, Florida, Yucatan. We have a lot of people in this thing's way. So we need to be watching it, and we need to be thinking about all possibilities because we have all the conditions to support a strong hurricane out there. We just need to continue to closely monitor exactly if that's going to be the solution that plays out. That's the big thing. And that's why we can't be afraid to sound the alarm. We cannot be afraid to sound the alarm. I'm not saying start preparing. I'm not saying this is it, hurricane for sure. What I'm saying is we need to start getting people examining the possibilities of seeing a major landfall in any of those aforementioned areas. It goes without saying, and I hope it's common sense, that if we have something expected to develop and we have so many different ensembles and model products calling for something big down the road within such close proximity of everybody, that it needs to be very, very quickly explored. Weather trackers, let me ask again. Were you talking 12Z today? I mean, 18Z today, or did you want to look at 18Z from yesterday? Is that why you were asking so much? Because if that's the case, I apologize if I misinterpret your question. What did 18Z yesterday have? 18Z, same general. See, really good consistency on the GFS's part. It did not move, even for a continuity run. It was still out there, developed it really quickly. What the heck is that? That was more of like an ATA kind of track, just further to the east. Look at that zigzag. What the... I don't know how much faith I put into that, but where it forms up initially out there to the east, that does make a lot of sense. I don't know if it's going to drift to the north that fast, though. I think that was mainly in response to this low-pressure system getting going right here with fronts right there, moving to the north, and then we have our next frontal system right there. So this is your open channel for that system to track due north. And it was stronger too, so it's going to want to lift north immediately. So yeah, I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think we're going to have to wait for modification of this high over the southeast and mid-Atlantic states to occur. But it's a possibility. It's a possibility. I'm not talking the zigzag. I mean just it moving to the north earlier. So we're going to try to give it a little bit longer and see if we get ensembles for 12 Zulu with the Euro. Cyclone locations, tropical Atlantic. Nope, we don't even have 12Z populating on this yet. Even at the 6Z, though, some of our 6Z ensembles do indicate that we could see development as early as the 2nd or the 3rd. Let's go down here. App Cyclones, Caribbean 12. Nope. Nothing in yet. We're going to have to wait and see. Let's go and see what the Canadian ensembles look like. We should have 12Z in by now. There we go. Yep. So 12Z ensembles are in. Calling for development right around the same general area. Moving to the west. And yeah, this thing does... The Canadian model thinks it's going to shoot off to the east-northeast faster. It's harder to tell on the tropical tidbits, overlay, but it has it doing something like this. Moving off in rapid succession with our next frontal system coming down. Very good consistency with the Canadian model, though. Some of the solutions do have it tracking up like this, only a few of them, but a large majority have it following this middle arrow here. Idalia surge was a major impact, biggest in 30 years from Charlotte to Taylor County. Look up Northwest NWW Tampa. They have Idalia impact information. It's possible. It is possible, yeah. Like I said, it's a possibility. It lifting to the north like that. I don't think it's going to go and zigzag back and forth, but, we're here to explore everything that we can. Give it a little bit longer and see if we get... Let's see if we have the rest of our EPS ensembles. Yep, every one of them are in. What else can we look at? What else can we look at? What else haven't we looked at? UK Met. I know the 12Z was starting to slowly come in. At least I think it was. Yeah, no, we don't have any 12Z yet. 12Z hasn't started populating. Any updates from National Hurricane Center? As of 2 p.m., still 20% chance. And then there's that 60% chance. All right, well, I mean, that's just about all she wrote, folks. Yeah, if 18Z is right, that's going to make sure everybody gets a taste of it. That's why I'm hoping that that's a very, very outlandish iteration. Is it going to keep raining all week in Antigua? Not all week, no. Not all week. We're almost there. We just need this frontal system to come down out of the United States and start changing the pattern up. Because right now, if we go back to water vapor image out there, we'll go east. We'll go right here to the full disk. We still have our anticyclone here spinning, and then we still have a huge anticyclone out here spinning with this upper low. You can see right here. There's our upper low, guys, that we were talking about for a while. So it did come to fruition. We had forecasted that, I think, like almost 2 weeks ago at this point, and there she is. So we had that right on the money again, too, thankfully. And it's all these different areas that are causing all of that moisture to come to the north. In fact, it looks like we're starting to get into the eastern side of that channel of moisture. You can see where Tammy once was right here is still moving off to the east. We have our other unstable system moving off to the east there. So our channel of moisture is finally getting up out of there. And then here's our next trough. There's our Halloween frontal system coming down. That's all of our cold air getting pulled in from the Canadian provinces. Have another upper low right here that's going to draw moisture away from you guys. So until this here can push east, I think by Wednesday or Thursday, that's when your area is going to finally dry out. That's when your area will finally dry out. And then what's also crazy is if you look, you can already see that there's an anticyclone. You can see it a lot clearer here. Upper level spin starting to happen over the Caribbean right there. And that's all diffluent flow. That's all what you want to support a tropical cyclone in the upper levels, because this is upper level water vapor here. So yeah, that's right about where all the models are thinking it'll start to develop too. South of Puerto Rico, south of Dominican Republic, so we'll have to see if that holds true. Anything to worry about in Puerto Rico? Not a whole lot. I mean, you guys have been seeing a lot of torrential rainfall, but I was speaking to my aunt yesterday, and even though you guys have seen several inches, it hasn't been that bad, according to her. Now, I mean, she's been down there. She's a native to Puerto Rico, so she knows a thing or two about the weather. So, I mean, it's a lot of rain. There are some areas that are being inundated by the rain accumulation, but, I mean, based on what she was telling me, it's just creating a lot of traffic, and a lot of people are having to navigate around the water. So... And that's why sometimes I wish that we wouldn't advertise that thunderstorms and rainfall are so dangerous and all that, because you folks down there in Puerto Rico and the other islands, I mean, you guys, it's not like it's brand spanking new. That would be like if I were to sit here and say, oh, God, guys, we're getting a hurricane in Florida. This is scary. A lot of us Floridians, myself included, would be like, okay, let's bring it on. Let's see what we got, because a lot of people are just used to it. And I'm not saying that it doesn't take away from the fact that it could get scary for people who aren't used to it. But for folks who are, you know, it's like clockwork. We know how to prepare. We know how to behave ourselves. We know what to expect. And then we just know how to stay ahead of it. That's where folks need to broadcast the realistic information and get it out there for everybody to watch. So that's why, you know, I wish we wouldn't split hairs and try to, I don't know, over-justify some of the verbiage we put with some of these smaller situations. This could possibly be a big situation. You know, a lot of our models calling for a major hurricane, that could be very bad for a lot of people. If nothing happens, then I'll immediately dial back the intensity of broadcasting this thing. If we start seeing trends as we go into Halloween and November 1st where it looks a lot weaker or a lot lesser, then yeah, I'm going to dial back how I'm broadcasting it. But right now, there's just so much to suggest that this thing could go wide right or wide left that we got to explore these possibilities. Even if it doesn't make landfall in Jamaica, can you agree tropical storm conditions, even hurricane, are still likely? Not necessarily, weather trackers, not necessarily. It depends on how close of a pass it makes, and it depends on how large of a system it is. We're not really anticipating as of right now that it could get big until it's off to your southwest or off to your due west, getting ready to either crash into the Yucatan or move to the north and northeast. So you guys are going to get the outer edge of it. Maybe, depending on how close it can track, if it does develop, there's a lot of ifs in this statement, then you could see tropical storm conditions, but I don't think you're going to see hurricane conditions. We would have to have a significant deviation in our pattern up here to get that thing to lift due north over Jamaica. Right now, it's definitely looking like you'll get the east side of it from a distance, but nothing extremely, worth sheltering in about, so... Rusty McCraney from WFTV has a YouTube channel. Oh, okay, good. I actually don't... Do I remember him? I'm not sure. But yeah, let's see. We'll go back to our probabilities. Oh, we have 200. We have one panel. And you know what? That's like spoiler alert. There we go. We have one panel. We have the last panel, and take a look at that. We have even more agreement that something could come up like this. So there you have it, weather trackers. There you have a little bit of area for tropical depression scenario out there over Jamaica and eastern Cuba. So it looks like the Euro, once we get the rest of the panels, and I don't know why we have 288 and that's it. We should have the first couple, but they're nowhere to be seen right now. Why does that East Pac monsoonal trough reach the Caribbean? Because of the way our setup is right now. That is kind of, sort of, still a direct influence of our El Nino, even though El Nino is very weird. El Nino is like non-existent down there in the Caribbean, but if you look, here's our subtropical jet right in through here. Subtropical jet is well into the southeastern United States. Here's our polar front jet right there. And usually this time of year, the subtropical jet is back down somewhere in through here, if not non-existent. So it's definitely still way to the north. And the reason we have all that moisture getting pulled in is because of this modified high height center here and this high height center here. And then we had Tammy going through there that just opened up a weak area of low pressure up and through there. And so what that's allowing everything to do is just kind of spill. It's kind of like when the Titanic hit the iceberg. You have all the different puncture wounds from the iceberg in the hull of the ship, and it's allowing water, obviously, to spill in and flood. Same thing. If you imagine our upper air pattern is the hull of Titanic, you have a hole here in the upper air pattern, so it's allowing all that extra moisture and warm air to just funnel in and flood into the pattern to the north. If that helps kind of describe it a little bit better versus using fancy terminology. With that anticyclonic flow, can it help rapid intensity? It can. Travis Cranford, very good question. Let's do that, as a matter of fact. While we wait for the rest of the panels of this to load in, yeah, we still only have the one panel. While we wait for that, let's go over and take a look at some of our steering parameters. Not steering, excuse me, our favorability, our developmental parameters. So here's our wind shear. This is our 12Z Euro wind shear. And dang. Again, you'd think I've done this before, but there's that. Remember I told you guys just now on the water vapor, there's our anticyclone right there. We still have a little bit of wind shear over the south because of that tut low, so this is verifying very well with what we see on satellite imagery. There you have it. Here's our anticyclone. There's our upper low here. There's our upper low here, so that's where all of our shear still is. Shear wrapped around our subtropical high, shear coming up from the south from these two features. This is where we have our dead zone in shear. So look at that, lining up very well with what's on satellite imagery. You take this through, and then there you have it. There goes where our anticyclone is going to merge and move in. And yeah, we just have it marinating down there all the way through the loop. So we have very good conditions for something to strengthen down there over the Caribbean. Very good conditions. And what's very weird is our Euro is thinking that our subtropical jet is going to dip way to the south. Here's our subtropical jet. There's our polar front with that next frontal system. So the Euro is, this is maybe what the Euro is thinking is going to save us from anything big happening. The fact that the Euro is predicting our subtropical jet is going to kind of migrate back down to the south. Let me see what the GFS is showing. Let's do a comparison. Big difference. Yeah, see, big difference. That's why the Euro isn't on board just yet with something blowing up. But there you have it. The GFS is still verifying really well with that big old anticyclone, and it's only going to stay down there. So even though you guys see all this green, all the green rotation around here, all the green colors before you get up into where the jet is, that there is actually showing very good outflow in the upper levels. So this is all the way up to 250 millibars. And the reason we have those different shadings of color is because in the mid to upper levels, until you get to the top of where this chart analyzes, you just have rising air. And what the rising air is doing is going outward like this. That's your outflow. That's your exhaust. So I'll draw it for you in layman's terms. This huge area right there is extremely favorable for something to get going. Extremely favorable, like you had said, Travis, for rapid intensification, or at the very minimum, intensification of a tropical disturbance. All that is good stuff. And then this is where our subtropical jet is predicted to be according to the GFS. So there's the big difference. See, like I was saying, you could always find a reason why models are doing one thing or another. The European model, if we go back to it, has our subtropical jet way down to the south. See that? STJ right through there. Whereas the GFS, if I highlight it, the STJ for the GFS is still way to the north. So that's probably why the Euro isn't thinking that it's going to come to the north and form into anything stronger, because the Euro still thinks our subtropical jet's going to be to the south. So it could help develop something down in the Caribbean, even lesser wind shear down there, less anticyclonic flow though, which is probably also another indicator why the Euro doesn't want it to get going fast like the GFS does. But nevertheless, I mean, we have everything we need to get something going down there. The low levels for the water and the upper levels for the airflow are good. And it goes without saying, I really don't think we're going to have a lot in the way of dry air down there. Let's go ahead and see. We'll go to the Euro. 12Z is all the way in. Let's go to relative humidity. And there you go. Yeah, look at that. Lots and lots and lots of moisture down there. Very, very, very good moisture down there. There's our anticyclone right there, that subtropical ridge. And then once that gets moving, you can see that you guys down there in the Lesser Antilles are going to get a break. This is on Wednesday, Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. You guys should finally start to clear out according to the Euro. And then that's when all that moisture is just going to become a breeding ground for whatever the heck that low pressure wants to do. And you can see that the Euro does develop it. This relative humidity model does a very great job. You can see it get going right there. It's down there for the Euro. It's definitely thinking it's going to spin up. But again, this solution just has it crashing and burning and becoming something for the East Pac. There's the end result. That's the end of the loop. So the Euro deterministic right now has it propagating west and then bam, becoming an issue for the East Pacific as that next system. Dang, see, this is why I like this model so much, or why I like interpolating the weather so much. There's that area right there where the GFS thinks that it could track north. If I reverse time just a little bit, there you have it, right there. That's what GFS is indicating. I know there's a lot of dry air. That's because that's that trough in the frontal system coming down, but there's our weakness right there that GFS is thinking could allow this thing to wander north. So both models are picking up what the other's putting down. It's just a matter of who's going to win the battle. What could win the battle at this point? Still don't have the rest of the ensembles in. Let's see if we have our ensemble cyclone locations yet. Nope, not yet. Still coming in. What about cyclone locations? EPS, tropical Atlantic. There we go. All right, 12Z is in. Any chance of it hitting the northern Gulf states? James, do you mean like Texas, Louisiana, and all that? Because if that's the case, no, I don't think so. I definitely don't think so. My feelings towards Whitney, in the words of Ross, pivot. Pivot, yes, graphics most helpful for us civilians. Nazaria, of course. Deterministic Euro is on drugs, doesn't even follow its own ensembles. I agree, yeah, and PM, I agree with you too. Euro is wrong. I don't know why the operational model is so way off. Like, I agree with you, Alex. Doesn't make sense with the ensembles. Here we go. Let's see what the tracks are doing. Dang, okay, all right. So that other model didn't do us any favors. We're still, if we go back to 0, yeah, so that's a concerning trend. We're seeing stronger ensembles on the Euro now. So this was 12Z yesterday. This was this time yesterday. You look and, a good amount of agreement. Have a couple of ensembles going Cat 2. Then we have 0Z, where we lose a little bit of our ensemble agreement. Still have a good consensus that we could see something track over Florida. Ironically, Florida's bullseyed. 12Z is not looking too good. We have really good consolidation in our ensembles right in through here. And now it's calling for a Category 2 for the Cayman Islands, Cuba, Southern Florida, the Bahamas. So we've definitely seen agreement in our Euro ensembles come up just a little bit more. Hello, it's my first time here. How does it look for the Cayman Islands? Melita, thank you for joining us right on time, because that's exactly what we're talking about. Both GFS and Euro are not looking too good for the Cayman Islands. So this is definitely something we need to keep on our radars and watch it like a hawk. Please don't hesitate to ask questions in my comments. Please do not hesitate to drop me a line on Instagram. And I will urge you guys, and this is for people watching this video afterward, please don't wait for another video. Please don't wait for another channel to broadcast this. Do your own research. I'm not even self-promoting here. Don't wait for me. I have a life. I have things going on. I can only tend to the weather as much as I can. Don't wait for me. If you guys can do your own research and you guys can start monitoring in advance, start monitoring in advance. Watch the trends. Start watching things on your own time. And then tune in to all of our weather updates as you can. Please don't don't leave it in our hands for you guys to get the weather news, because a lot of us don't do this full time. I don't do it full time. Otherwise, I'd be doing live streams like every model update so I can talk to you guys. I can't. I just don't have the time for that, unfortunately. Do I want to do that? Heck yeah. If this thing starts forming up, are we going to do live streams like we did with Tammy? 100%. If it comes to Florida, are we storm chasing? Definitely. I've already made it clear, especially if it comes through on a weekend, I'm definitely going full force into that thing. Definitely going full force in there. In fact, some of these ensembles think that we could see a landfall more than likely by the 9th or the 10th. Where is my calendar? So yeah, it could be a weekend event, if not Monday, Tuesday. No, wait, I'm reading the wrong. That's still October, stupid. So yeah, it could be a next weekend kind of thing for us. Not this weekend and not the following, but the following weekend. Actually, let me rephrase that. Dumb. Not next weekend, but the following weekend, because we're already kind of done with this weekend, David. It's already Sunday. See, it doesn't even feel like a Sunday because I shouldn't even be on here right now. But, Melita, I hope that answers your question. So right now, we definitely need to keep an eye out. Here you are in the Cayman Islands right there. And if you look, we have a lot of good ensemble agreement that something at least as low as a tropical storm could affect you. We still have a few other ensemble members calling for a Category 1, a Category 2 over top of your area. And I don't get it. I definitely don't get it. I don't understand why the operational model is still thinking it's going to crash and burn and move this way when none of it, like literally none of its ensembles have it moving in now. All the ensembles keep it off the coast, moving up towards Florida, Cuba, and the Cayman Islands. And then inevitably it'll become a Bahamas problem as well. Even Jamaica, according to the Euro, doesn't have any real solutions. We have one model member that goes over Jamaica right now. So again, weather trackers still keep an eye on it, but it looks like the worst is going to pass off to your west. This is where most of our agreement is right there. So Tampa Bay and south through Florida all the way down through the Keys, watch. Cuba, watch. Cayman Islands, watch. Bahamas, I don't think we have anybody in here in the Bahamas, but still, we got to watch because we have a lot of ensemble members that think we could see a Category 1 or stronger going over the Bahamas if it gets going. If it gets going. So we'll see. Dark Earth, welcome in. No worries. You're not stupid, David. I hope not. Thank you, Tia. My translator's back in. Not my translator, but my tutor for my Lesser Antilles pronunciation. Now, let's try one last time and see if our probabilities are back in. Let's see. We have our ensemble, so this should be populating by now. Nope, we still only have that part of it. What about tropical storm? Okay, so tropical storm is in. Do we have anything for tropical storm? Oh, wow. Yeah, we do. Look at that. So we're all the way up to a 30% chance. Not much, but I'll tell you right now, it takes a lot for the Euro to pop that off. That's why I'm kind of going, whoa, because it takes a lot for the Euro to show a depression, let alone a tropical storm. So we're up to 30% now that we could see a tropical storm moving up like this. I'm going to go ahead and let's play around and see if we have any hurricane probabilities yet. That's tropical storm again. I clicked the wrong thing. Let's go to hurricane. 96, 120, 144, 168, 192, 2 of 16. No. Oh, wait, whoa, look at that. Look at that. Okay. All right. Now, I'm going to sound like I'm hyping a little bit, but we officially have the Euro highlighting a small little probability. It's a 5% chance, but guys, again, in perspective, it's like pulling teeth. It's like pulling teeth without anesthetic for the Euro to do anything with its probabilities. So for us to get that 5% sliver that a hurricane could be going through there, that definitely raises eyes. That opens eyes, raises eyebrows. So yeah, definitely a big we need to watch. We're definitely in a holding pattern, and we're going to keep a very, very close eye on it. We have 264 now. I don't know why this one overlay is being silly. Look at all those probabilities, though, guys. Look at how expansive this is getting. Now we have probabilities all through here. That area is just growing. I really want to see the middle part of this loop. I really wish. Maybe if I open up the page again. Let me refresh the page, and we'll start from the beginning. I really want to see what the depression probabilities look like out there now. Cyclones, Caribbean. There we go. Okay, so it was just a refresh. Let's see. 96. In 96 hours, we're already up to 50%, guys. Look at that. 120. Already at 75%. Oh, Lord. Look at that. Probabilities are going through the roof. Probabilities are incrementally going through the roof now. Look at that. We're already up to 75% chance of development as of November 3rd. Of November 3rd, just to the south, we have tropical depression formation to the south of Jamaica. That's a huge difference between 0Z. Take a look at this. At 120 hours on the 3rd, we had a third. Now, that's actually already a 40% chance, 45% chance. You go to 12Z today and look at that. Massive upgrade. Massive upgrade. A 75% chance. And it holds 75% chance through to the 5th and the 6th. And it finally doesn't go back down to about 60% by the time we get to the 7th. It goes without saying, we got to watch. We definitely need to start waving the yellow. We'll wave the caution flag for NASCAR fans in there. We're not in black flag or red flag conditions, but we got to start waving the caution flag. We definitely need to. We haven't seen that level of agreement since we saw, I mean, look at the system down there in the East Pac. We definitely need to keep our eyes open on this one. That is the huge takeaway here. Big takeaway. We have something spawning in a bad position. Even a tropical depression down there, let's just put it that way. Even a tropical depression in that area is bad because we have too many people in front of it. There's no way in heck that it's going to do this. It's not going to form up and then just go backwards and exit the Caribbean. It's going to hit somebody, and that's why we're in here talking today. Sharon, happy Sunday. Nazar, I'm dropping in to say hi and say thanks for taking time for your busy schedule. I appreciate you. Great day here in Barbados, hot and sunny. That's great news. I'm glad to hear that you guys are finally getting a little bit of relief. Tia Michelle, I didn't even know Mexico was hit with a Cat 5 hurricane. Where have I been? Well, you've been sick, dear. That's why you haven't been kind of keeping an eye out on things. Very thankful you could join us today, though. So is that a rainmaker for Jamaica? Absolutely. If we see development to your south, you're going to get a lot of rain from it. That's for sure. Definitely. I do appreciate you. I like how you break the information down. Thank you, Melita. You're very welcome. That's what we're here doing. And I'm really glad that we could stick around and take a look at what our recent ensembles could show too, because that's a big jump. And look at that. Just like we were saying at the very beginning of the stream, we have to watch from west and south in Florida to the Cayman Islands, the Bahamas, and most of Cuba. I'm not forgetting about you guys in Jamaica. I'm definitely not forgetting you guys out in Jamaica, I promise. It's not like I'm trying to ignore you. It's just right now the general consensus is somewhere, I would say we have about 75% of agreement. Cayman Islands, Cuba, and the very southern tip of Florida need to watch. But again, it goes without saying our ensembles have enough wiggle room for it to go to the north, and we have enough ensemble agreement for it to go to the southeast. So we'll go back over to our ensembles one more time. And actually, we could do this is why I love this website. Ethan, if you're still in here, this is what I love about this website, too. We'll go EPS Ensembles, Tropical Atlantic, and then we'll go to the 4-panel view. And then here we go. This is where it gets awesome. We can compare both of our ensembles now. There we go. Bada bing, bada boom. Now we can look at both models at the same time. So you take this through, and let's see how much agreement we have with our models. So yep, very good agreement by 120 hours out. So on the 3rd of November, we have something. We have our GFS here to the south of Jamaica. We have our Euro to the south of Jamaica. So very good run-to-run consistency there. We continue through time, and yeah, see, the Euro definitely wants to keep it a little weaker. Definitely a little bit weaker, and that makes a lot of sense with why GFS is in agreement that it could do something like this. And the Euro is in agreement that it could do something like this, being a South Florida issue. So there's our margin of error. Very cool that we can do side-by-side comparisons like this. The GFS is on the right, the Euro is on the left. And what's crazy is the Euro is starting to slowly and steadily increase its intensity forecast with this system as well. Princia Pierre, this is going to be weathermodels.com. Can this storm do like our usual storms do and head more north towards us? Samuel Reed, where are you located? In Tampa? Dang is not cool at all. I don't wish it on anybody. No, that sounds absolutely horrible. Absolutely horrible. What website do you use for water vapor or infrared? Nomad Cat 4. I like Tropical Tidbits, but I have much better luck with this website. This is College of DuPage, weather.cod.edu. I love this website. We used it a lot when I was in the Air Force. because you just get such high resolution satellite data, and you could zoom way down too, like this if you wanted. We can go way down into, we'll go to Puerto Rico right now just for the sake of it. Look at how high res this is. And you switch over to visible satellite. This is GOES 16 satellite imagery. It's very cool how this populates. And notice that there's no latency in it either. There's no lag or a struggle with populating the data. We can go everywhere we want. We can go sub-regional. We can go down and look at Invest 96 real quick. There's Invest 96. Get a clear crystal picture of it right in through there, flowing around, looking very weak, very elongated. There's the circulation. It's all stretched out. And then there goes all our fair weather cumulus moving across Florida. Still have that prevailing easterly flow around that high pressure in that ridge. And there goes all of our daytime convection firing over the mountains and along the coastline. A little weak sea breeze fronts for Cuba and a little bit of stuff over the Bahamas even. South Florida, I can see why Miss Leah was saying that you guys were getting some rain down there. You had some bands moving through some earlier in the afternoon convection. But this is a cool website. I love this website for satellite. For satellite. I don't use it too much for weather models anymore because I have weather models. Have you looked at Google Live View? I haven't. I've heard of it, but I haven't looked at it yet. But Samuel Reed, I absolutely can say yes. That's why I'm definitely saying let's go look at a map. Let's open up a map. Let's go to regional sectors, and we'll do this. This is perfect. So I'm only using this to give you guys an area of where we should be watching. So I'll turn the data off, and in my opinion right now, based off of what we're saying with our 12Z data, from here to here, really needs to watch. So if you're in this where I highlighted my pink, these are all, if you're in that pink window, that projected path here from Wxcenter, that's our internal forecast right there. If you're in the pink, you need to watch this closely, especially if it does start to organize. That's my preliminary prediction right now based off everything that we have today. This doesn't look good for Jamaica at all. You know, it's going to be a close call for Jamaica. Jamaica is definitely going to be on the outer limits. If this thing doesn't wobble, if it wobbles back, then yeah, bad, very bad. We got to watch. Right now, where I have my pink drawn is where a lot of our GFS and Canadian and our Euro ensembles believe that this thing has a potential of tracking directly overhead. Off topic, you said you have an Evo 10. I do actually. I have my phone right here. I don't know if you guys will be able to see it, but I'll go ahead and show it real quick just for shoots and giggles, and then we're going to get off the stream. But that's her right there. Let me see if I can get it to focus right there. Good old, and that was taken in Florida right there. But anyways, wait, Jamaica got flooded as well this week. I really need to catch up. I don't know if Jamaica got flooded. We're talking about what's going on right now. Nazario, so does this mean me and my dad can chase for the first time in a while? We'll see. We'll definitely see. Right now, you know, if I had to narrow this down, if I had to really narrow it down and give you like a very, very marginal track, I would say right in through here is where we really need to pay close attention. Right in this yellow shading is where we have the greatest chance that it could track. And in the pink, that's how much of a wobble we could see in it. Type R 2019, very good. I like the newer Type Rs. I don't know if I would ever get one, unfortunately. I think I'd much rather get into a used GTR just for the heck of it, or get an older STI. I love the Blob Eye STIs, but I wouldn't be opposed to a Hawkeye or an Eagle Eye sedan STI either. Thank you, PEXTT. Very, I was going to say very clean to my own car, but no, I thank you very much. I've been driving it a lot more recently because of one of our subscribers, Mike Murad, has been enticing me and entertaining me to drive that car a lot more, and I'm falling back in love with it. So Principe Pierre, Lesser Antilles are going to be looking good here very soon. We just got to give it a little bit longer. We'll go back to our GFS real quick, and I'll show you. So right now, we're still underneath that ridge, and unfortunately, we haven't seen the pattern change up just yet. But if you look, as soon as Wednesday, if not into Thursday, you guys are finally going to get that clearing trend, and the precip is finally going to be downstream of you, and then we have to worry about that next system moving in. So give it a few more days, and you guys will be okay. Oh, so 2014. So you have the Eagle Eye generation right before it transitioned to the newest gen, right? If I'm not mistaken. 96AL, maybe a subtropical storm. That's what I was thinking initially, PM. I thought that it was going to be a lot more of a subtropical system than it would actually tropical. It looks a lot more subtropical right now, even. Could Jamaica get 10 inches of rain or more? You know, that's going to be a tough call. Because even looking at GFS right now, you guys do get a lot of rain, but you get the outer periphery of it. So, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Could definitely see a few inches from it, that's for sure. Could Jamaica get 96L? Thank you. Oh, you're very welcome. Yeah, so Princia, to answer your question, give it till Wednesday, if not Thursday, and you'll finally start seeing those storms back down. Maybe a little bit sooner if we can get that subtropical ridge over the southeast to finally migrate to the east and close that channel of moisture for you guys. Now, if the NHC publishes a track after formation occurs and the track is like what you have depicted, you have to start calling... If that... I don't know if I could go that far as to say... but I will let you guys say that if you want. If you want, that's entirely up to you. I'm not going to get that, about it, but we'll have to see. ATCF shows it has winds of 40 miles an hour. That is impressive. I believe it, yeah. That would definitely be a subtropical storm. I think it's said on National Hurricane Center they do have folks going in. Yeah, aircraft reconnaissance is in there right now, exploring it. I mean, it has 35 knots of wind here on Tropical Tidbits even. I'm surprised they haven't classified it as Vince. Maybe we're going to get Vince stolen from us, and then this Whitney is going to be the last one. So, we'll see. Does anybody want to try to stay on here till 5? I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it. I can try. Mine is stock. I got it from an old man in Wisconsin with 4,000 miles, currently at 12K. Wow, very good. Reminds me of a Wilma storm. Almost. Robert, I agree. Can we stay on until 5 p.m.? I mean, we can give it a try. We'll give it another 20 minutes. Usually by then, National Hurricane Center will say something. We'll see if we get an update on 96L, if they classify it as anything. Because according to Tropical Tidbits, we already have a tropical storm. 35 knots, that's about 42 to 45 miles an hour. So we'll see what happens. But I agree, Robert Pullen, that definitely does seem a lot like a Wilma-type track. We'll go and look at that real quick. Oops, my microphone... cable's in the way. Hurricane Wilma track. There you go. Very close to it, actually, because look at that. It formed right off of the Jamaica coastline and then moved very similar to what we're kind of depicting here in our ensembles. There's the satellite. Who else did we have down there? October hurricane tracks. Here we go. Well, there's all of October's hurricanes for the most part, and you can kind of see a clear consensus on who needs to worry the most. So, now I know granted this will be more of a November situation, but I'm just saying. So we'll definitely have to keep an eye out. Let's see if we can find November. October, November hurricane tracks. There's Hurricane Ada. Very bizarre track. Very, very bizarre. Hurricane Ida. I don't think we're going to have enough time for this thing to travel that far to the north, so I don't think we're going to have an Ida track. This could most definitely happen. Ada's track right here, this could definitely happen. It moves in and then comes up to the north. That's kind of what the Euro has it doing on its operational run, sort of, almost. There's Nicole from last year. Nicole took everybody by surprise. Look at how she looked. Subtropical storm Nicole. Right there. I remember this one came out of nowhere. Definitely came out of nowhere. Take 5 to stay till 5. That is true. I could. Could this be Ivan 2.0? Hopefully not. I don't think it'll be Ivan 2.0 in terms of where it tracks over the southeast. I think this has a greater possibility of looking more Wilma-esque. Maybe not in terms of intensity, but in terms of track. There goes Nicole again. Nicole trying to get her act together. Let's see, what else do we have? What else can we look at? What else can we look at? I'm running out of options here. I guess we're just going to kind of sit and wait for our 5 p.m. update. I know we drove to Tennessee to get it. I got lots of picks. Can you look at recon data? Plane left. Let's see. Into invest. It was finished. I mean, we have like a lowest central pressure of about 1,008 millibars, and anywhere between peak wind was 35 knots ish. No, it was about 30 knots. Nothing really impressive. At least it doesn't seem like it. We have some wind barbs above 30 knots. A couple over here as well. Actually, there's some that are 35 knots on the back side of the system. So, I mean, I don't know. There is enough agreement for it to be a subtropical system, that's for sure. So, I was in Kate, November 1985. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. Hurricane Kate, 1985. Oh, there we go. Not the same setup, but very similar to what Adalia did towards the back end of it from like here, from here forward. Kind of, almost. Adalia, no, not too close. Hurricane Danny, Hurricane Bob. Hurricane Bob. Hurricane Bob came out of nowhere. Yeah, I really want to look at some historical systems to try to get a background on what the synoptic pattern looked like. I'll have to wait and see. So we could have Whitney towards Florida if this won the recon planes data designated as Vince. Well, that would be if National Hurricane Center decides to designate it. It's going to be all up to them. They found winds above 30 miles an hour. Some of the indications have it above 40 miles an hour, so it's actually up to them what they want to do with it. If they don't designate it, then this could be Vince in the Caribbean. If they do decide to suddenly designate it just to check a name, then we could have Whitney down to our south, and then we wrap up the entire hurricane season name. When is it predicted to be in the Cayman Islands area, Melita? I want to say between the 5th and the 7th is right about when. We'll go back to the GFS because the GFS has a more cut and dried look at it. So there it is. Yep, 5th, 6th, 7th, and then by the 8th, you'll be on the back side of it, according to the latest GFS. So between the 5th and the 7th. Samuel Reed, how is my day going? It's been good. Had a barbecue earlier, made some lunch on the grill. I figured I would do that and have a drink or so before getting on the live stream, especially with all this data coming in. When will it start in Jamaica? By the 2nd or the 3rd, weather trackers, 2nd or the 3rd. And on this, you guys definitely don't take a direct hit or anything near a direct hit. You're probably just going to see a lot of rainfall from it. But there's the 2nd and then into the 3rd, and then there's the 4th. You're on the back side of it as well. So a lot of rain as it goes right now. Hurricane Michael. Yeah, Hurricane Michael did but I don't think we have the steering flow for it to track up to the north like Hurricane Michael did. That's the thing. Like, let's see. Hurricane Michael is definitely more of like an Idalia kind of example, starting down there and then moving up to the north. Idalia was only a little further to the east than what Michael did. This would be more of like an Idalia reminiscent storm. Let's see what, you know what, I don't remember the specific track of what Hurricane Ian did. Let's see what Ian's track was like as it came up. Path. Can't see it anywhere. I just want the track. I want the whole track, not the forecast. Oh, here we go. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, Ian definitely did something similar to what some of our ensembles are thinking right now, forming to the south of Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and then Jamaica. This has it turning faster, though. This definitely has it turning faster and coming over Florida. So, not the same. It looks like a lot of our ensembles want this thing to form in the same general area, but then track a little bit further to the west before coming back like this. That's what the general consensus in our ensembles are, is anything like this. So, similar, very similar. Use historical hurricane site. Let's go take a look then. Let's go use that to kill some time. We got about another 10 minutes to kill. Let me move my mic out of the way real quick. My wire is getting in the way of my keyboard. There we go. Google. Or no, yeah, we'll do Google historical hurricane tracks. There we go. All right, let's see. And we'll narrow it down to November. Why not? Let's go 33844. Okay, so that doesn't help us at all. Let's go year. Let's go 2000 to, nope, not 200, 2000 to 2022. Nope, not all. I want 2000 to 2022. There we go. And pressure, it doesn't matter. Category, it doesn't matter. Why is it not populating anything? Am I not doing this right? Because I got the year set. What else do I have to do to get this populating? What website can you see the GFS? That is, you can use Tropical Tidbits. Do you mind pulling up Wilma's past track? Absolutely. We had it up here a little bit ago. Let's go ahead and take a look. Hurricane Wilma path or track. There you go. So very similar. Very similar. Kate caught everyone off guard, did not let us off work until it was hitting coast. It was a Cat 2 when it hit the coast. That's horrible. Hopefully not, Scrooge McDuck, but I hear you. This could definitely be one of the big ones. This could definitely be one of the ones we want to watch closely. This is like our ensemble trends for Wilma. This is neat to see. So we're seeing very similar ensembles with this possible future storm as we are with Wilma, or as we did with Wilma, if you guys look. Very, very interesting. Wow, look at the old forecast track. That's old. It doesn't look like that anymore. But I remember that. The forecast cone, as opposed to now, it's definitely more of a blob. Dang, look at the uncertainty there was for Wilma. That's crazy. This is Tropical Storm Wilma at the time. They definitely were not thinking it was going to go major hurricane. And if you look, there were no major hurricanes at all. So, again, even back in 2005, National Hurricane Center was like, we're going to go on the weaker side with this. And the next thing you know, 185 mile an hour Cat 5. Weather trackers, I definitely understand your concern. It would just take a lot of a shift or a big shift in our steering pattern. So Like we said at the beginning of the stream, we have to watch the whole long wave jet setup. We got to watch that second front, not the one that's coming down now, but the second front. And we have to watch the first high pressure that's coming down with our Halloween frontal system. Those three things are going to play a huge role in how this sets up and how it moves forward. But yeah, Wilma definitely looks very reminiscent of what we're looking at here. Oh, excuse me. Who else? Let's see. I forget what Hurricane Charlie did. Let's see. Hurricane Charlie. Not as similar. So, I mean, kind of, but we're definitely looking at more of this going on. So, definitely closer to Wilma. There's the comparison between Ian and Charlie, even though we both know, or we all know, that Ian definitely came in a lot closer to Charlie like this, as opposed to their early forecast track to the west. That was the later forecast track when it was already right off the coast of Florida. See, once again, you know, National Hurricane Center, they always keep it on the weaker side. They had a tropical storm all the way through and then a Category 1 or a Category 2 hurricane by the time it got here. But we know that it went major hurricane from there to there. And it tracked right through. So, let's go take a look and see if we have anything updated. 2 p.m., 2 p.m. 19E is a 10 a.m. 19E hasn't changed a whole lot. It's still currently moving to the north-northeast at 2 miles an hour, so it may as well be not moving. It may as well be stationary. Let's go and see if we can take a look at it. There it is right there. We're going to lose the sun. Going to lose the sun on it. But yeah, we'll go ahead and give it a little bit. We'll definitely give it a little bit. We had Hurricane Lisa in Belize. I remember that. A Charlie V2 is possible. Not really. If we're now kind of comparing apples to oranges here, and I don't want to get very, very specific. If we had to get very specific, this is definitely a bit more reminiscent of Wilma's track and setup, I think. What we can do, too, is let's go over to our synoptic charts and take a look at how similar the pattern was. Weather analysis, chart archive. When was Wilma's path? Let's see, go to Google. Hurricane Wilma track was between October 15th and October 27th. October 27th would have been by the time it's well off to our north. So let's go back in time to, let's see, this is, let's see when if we can get the dates on here at all. Dates. There is 10. Okay, good. So the 23rd, the 24th, the 23rd. So we have to go back to like the 20th. Let's go back here, weather analysis archive, and let's do 10/25. No, we'll go 10/20/2005 at 12Z. Retrieve archived map. Select a different map. Why is it not available? Earliest available map is May 1st, 2005. So why is it not available? Let's go 0Z, 10/20/2005. Why is that not available? Let's go 15/20. Nope, that's not available. Why is it not available? Next. Oh, I see why. So we'd have to go zoom, North America, zoom in. Right here. Now we should get something. There we go. Okay. So let's see. Got a cold air damming set up along the east coast. Front coming down to the south. That's looking, that's fairly close to what we're expecting here. Very close to what we're expecting here. Only difference is that the low is going to form up. A low is expected to form up here and open up a channel like that. So we'll have to see if it's a front that comes down from the south or comes down from the northwest and then comes through, or if it's this low pressure that decides to deepen down over Florida for that matter and track off and try to let this thing escape. We'll have to see. Definitely a lot to be determined, if anything. What's up, gang? George, welcome in. I hope they jam-packed this update. Yeah, honestly, Dolphins won big lead today. It's Joe Ever. All right, so let's go back to National Hurricane Center and go to the home page. Wait a minute, what the... Oh, I was about to say, did they get rid of it? I was about to panic. Okay, no, nothing's there, nothing yet. Got about 8 minutes left. 8 minutes left. Let's go back to the WPC analysis. Let's go a little back. Or no, let's go forward in time. Let's go next map, and let's go to the 23rd. Let's go to the 23rd and see. 23rd at 0Z and do the zoomed in. Why is that not available? I want the zoom in map. There we go. North America. There she is. We have the front coming down. This must have been a very fast moving frontal system. Very fast moving front. Because it was here a couple days ago, and now in 2 days it's moved already pretty much through most of the panhandle, northern Florida, and here comes Wilma getting ready to shoot off like that. So it goes to show these systems don't have to be very far from the cold front for it to run right up along it. Because looking at this, that means that Wilma definitely passed right up against this front as she went through southern Florida the way that she did. Because this is going to continue to propagate. Let's see. Let's go forward one more time. 25. Oh, that was already through Florida. Okay, let's go to 24th. We'll go to the 24th. There we go. So yeah, Wilma's actually creating a bit of an interaction here, which is really interesting. Wilma's stopping the front from going any further to the south, it looks like. She's pulling some of the cold air down this way, which is probably why it weakened and it didn't end up... it didn't end up staying strong as it skyrocketed off to the north-northeast, or the east-northeast, I should say, as it moved through. Then we have another frontal system coming down, a big one. Let's refresh. Is this as of 5 p.m.? This is 2 p.m. All right, I'm going to give it 5 more minutes, and we'll see what happens. I don't think we're going to see anything, though. And then we'll jump off this live stream, call it a day. When was a Cat 2 coming over the peninsula? Yeah, somewhere around there. Somewhere around Category 2. Well, yeah, no, I don't think we're going to get a tropical cyclone out of 96L. I think that ship has sailed. There's Tropical Depression 19. TD 19. It's definitely trying to stay away from Central America. Central America really isn't seeing a whole lot with it yet. It's trying to form up, trying to get going, but it's just not consolidating. It's only bubbling. It's only bubbling. It really isn't closing off, which is a good thing. Definitely a good thing. You can see that a lot of the thunderstorm activity keeps blowing up and then falling apart. Huge outflow boundaries moving around in there. There goes one right there. One right there, one right there. Yeah, this is another one that a lot of people were concerned was going to create havoc for Central America, but so far it's staying way offshore. It's barely moving, and they're not getting a whole lot over Centam. You can see a lot of fair weather queue for most of the day out there. Maybe some very, very isolated thunderstorms over parts of, Guatemala, El Salvador. Belize saw some daytime thunderstorms with what looks like a sea breeze that kicked off and moved to the west. That's about it. Really not seeing a whole lot out of TD19. And then there's our monsoonal trough. Look at that bad boy. Oof, right there. Textbook Pacific monsoonal trough. Pretty neat. Yeah, you're welcome. Of course. I'm glad we aired out everything on the table and could talk about everything, because there's a huge margin of error with this. As we get ready to wrap up in the next 3 minutes, that's the main takeaway. We definitely don't want to jump the gun and go major hurricane just yet, but we also don't want to sit on the sideline and just kind of say we'll wait and see. Because if we wait and see, it's going to be too late. If we're expecting formation right here, that's right next to Jamaica, right next to the Cayman Islands, right on top of Central America for that matter. There's too many people in the way for us to kind of wait and see and continue to half-butt our energy into forecasting this. You look out there right now, and honestly, there's really not a whole lot of shear. Not a whole lot of it. You can see some of the shear still influencing our weather over Jamaica, just to the north of the Cayman Islands, Cuba. You can see it in this visible satellite shot. I know we're at a very bad angle. You guys probably can't see from there. But out through here, there's really not a whole lot of shear. It's mainly a little bit of dry air right now. And as all this stuff advects in around that anticyclone that's setting up just to the west or the east, let's go over there and take a look again before we lose the sun. Or actually, we really don't need the sun. We can just go in like this. There we go. Oh, this is another one that I don't want to use. Never mind. Let's go with... We'll go with this one, and we'll use our mid-level water vapor. There we go. So yeah, there's still some dry air out there. We have this tut low, this upper tropospheric trough moving through that's trying to bring the moisture in. It's crazy. We actually have two different systems. PM, have a good one. We'll see you next time. Very interesting. We have two different systems that are drawing moisture into that source region. We have our anticyclone right here. This is going to be the one that's going to help support whatever that is, formation right there. And then we have this tut low trying to draw in moisture from the East Pac monsoonal trough and pull tropical depression 19 in like this. So very cool stuff. You use water vapor and you could see everything pretty much a mile away. If this storm came in as a hurricane south of Florida going northeastward, would the Gulf Stream affect its path any? Not the path, but it could maybe play a role in its intensity. We've definitely seen that before. Starting next week, the model runs happened 1 hour earlier. Oh, that's true. Yeah, we're getting close to the time change, so our model runs are going to start coming in sooner, which is great. It means we don't have to wait so long. Weather trackers, I would think if they're going to populate anything, they would have done it by now. Yeah, nothing right now. Let's go over to the Eastern Pacific, see if anything's... Yep, no, we haven't, no updates. Nothing changed. So, I think we can count this one out. I think whatever happens in the Caribbean might be Vince. So we'll have to see. And if you're superstitious out there, if anybody is still watching is superstitious, I've noticed that it's the male hurricanes that tend to have it out for Florida when you really sit back and think about it. Because, I mean, we had Francis, but Francis weakened. We had Idalia, but Idalia was trying to also, she went through the replacement cycle, so she didn't do too much. She wasn't strengthening as she moved ashore. But then you think back, and we had Charlie, we had Gene, we had Ivan, we had... Ian last year. Ian was blowing up before he came ashore. So, you can kind of make a case that, you know, the feminine names have also blown up Florida, but a lot more on the male side, I've noticed, if you guys are superstitious like that. I don't know. But, alrighty. That's going to just about do it. So, we really, it goes without saying, the bottom line with this live stream is we have a lot we need to keep an eye out for. A huge amount that we need to keep an eye out for. Just a little stitious. Yeah, there we go. Just the right amount of stitious. Yes, Miss Leah, there we go. Andrew again. Andrew. Michael. Yeah, see, so, I mean, it goes without saying, should South Florida be worried for any potential storms? Yes. Maybe not worried, but we should definitely be watching from central South Florida all the way through to Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, and Cuba. So, definitely, and the Bahamas as well. The Bahamas should also be watching. I don't know if we have anybody in or if anyone's going to watch from the Bahamas, but Bahamas, we have a lot of areas. Let's just put it in this case, before I get even more tired and my brain starts stuttering more. Well, let's put it this way. We have so many folks right in front of whatever could possibly be developing that it's time to really amp up measures to communicate all possibilities. At this point in time, we have very, very good model agreement from every single one of our models, the Euro included, so nobody can say, oh, you're hyping one model or you're looking at one model run. So at this point in time, it's definitely a moment to where we need to buckle down and just really, really vigilantly start looking at everything and exploring the possibilities of nothing happening all the way to a major hurricane hitting your area. So we'll see. Is development possible? You saw it yourself. Development is very likely. Development, we're almost at 100% probability at this point that we're going to see something form. What that something is, we need to get a little closer in time to make the determination. And then from there, we can continue to narrow down our anticipation and see, okay, formation, check. What is it? Tropical, check. Is it going to be a hurricane? Check, and so on and so forth. Right now, at this point in time, it definitely seems like we're going to see something, and the clock is ticking in terms of what that something is going to be. So I would urge you guys in the chat right now, and for folks who are tuning in after this live stream has concluded, please amp up your monitoring. Please make sure that you double check your preparations are there. And right now, believe it or not, is when you want to be prepared. You guys might say that's very premature, but I personally think right now you need to go and do a sanity check, do your rounds to make sure that you do have everything you need, because if something kicks off, the general trend is it could be coming towards you, could be coming towards us here in Florida, So it's at this point in time where you want to start making your preparations. I actually don't really believe that you should be preparing when a storm is out there. That's like, going to my military perspective, that's like saying we got to prepare for war when we're already at a war or we're imminently on the cusp of a war breaking out. No, the military is training even during peacetime. The military is training and prepping 24/7. And when we're in hurricane season, we should be preparing and making sure that we're watching so that when things do hit the fan, you can sit back like this and just simply wait. You don't have to go, because that's what everybody else is going to do. Let's be honest. 80% of we'll say Floridians for that matter, 80 to 90% of Floridians don't really worry about a hurricane unless it's directly coming over them as a Cat 4 or something like that. No one really worries. The running joke here in Florida is if Waffle House ain't closing, we ain't worried. So, if people want to relate preparing for a hurricane to whether Waffle House of all places closes, it goes without saying no one is really prepared. And I'm not saying that negatively or trying to make fun of people. I'm just saying, that's the rhetoric surrounding a hurricane coming to Florida, for example. So that's why I always mention to people, you want to be prepared before the storm. And when I say before the storm, I mean before it's on the map. Because when it's on the map, especially if it's headed your way, it's on its way. It's like, you're already lowering or limiting your chances of being able to prepare. Because once it's on the map, everybody who was lazy and not paying attention is then going to go flood the stores. They're going to rush to the gas stations, and then everything is going to get wiped out. So if you take the time now while we're still investigating to make sure you're ready for if we start calling the shots on a storm headed your way, it's smooth sailing. You're comfortably just kind of in a holding pattern. You're waiting. So at this point, Cayman Islands, Jamaica, Cuba, even here in Florida, now's the time to do a quick little sanity check and double check exactly if you are ready, or if you do need to maybe do a grocery store run or two, or maybe make sure that you have an extra gas can or two in the garage or wherever you store it, just in case. Because when things happen, that's when, like you just said, Nomad Cat 4, that's when people get scared and they're not because they're not prepared. It's the same thing with a test. If you know your test is coming and it's down the road 2 months from now and you're not stressing, that's because it's far away. It's not even on your radar. When it's right on top of you and you're 2 days out from a major test or an exam, that's when that test anxiety sets in because you haven't prepared and it's too late. It's right there. No way you're going to cram. Same concept. Right now we have interest that could be forming up and we know where it could possibly track. So now is the time to prepare. When it's happening, you can sit back and kind of watch the fireworks. And then maybe if it misses or it doesn't do anything, then good stuff. That's good. If not, at least you can say you were prepared just in case. The NHC plane is currently in the Gulf on the way back. I believe it. If you're in Florida, you should have been prepared since May. That's just a Florida thing. Yeah, pretty much. But all right, folks. So yeah, if you are down there in the Cayman Islands, if you're down there in Jamaica, definitely make sure that you take a quick glance at your preparation list. Make sure you take a quick look around the house or your apartment, wherever it is you reside, and double check exactly what you have in place. Better to be safe than sorry. Better to just kind of have everything where you need it immediately in case things do hit the fan. We're just being preemptive. That's it. Right now, a lot of our models are indicating this could be a serious situation, and I think we should treat it as such. We haven't had this much model agreement since Idalia, since Lee, since Tammy, so, let's just watch and we'll see exactly what's happening. Kevin, howdy from Tallahassee. I don't have that much to do. Oh, that's good. And that's all I'm saying. When I say prepare, guys, I don't mean prepare for a storm. I mean just make sure that your list of things that you need to prepare if there's a storm are kind of taken inventory of. That's it. I know I'm going to start doing that just in case. Not necessarily because of a Central Florida impact, but in case I end up going storm chasing. I want to make sure that I have plenty of gas. I need to make sure that car is ready in the event I go through water and stuff like that. Little things like that, Not saying you got to batten down the hatches and anchor your home, It's the little prep. Get ahead of the little prep so that when the incidentals aren't wiped out, if something does form up, then, you're not panicking. But alrighty, folks, we're going to cut the stream. We're 20 seconds out from 2 hours exactly. We'll definitely see you tomorrow for our next full segment of Wxcenter Nazario, and tomorrow night will be our 8 p.m. official Tropics talk. Today was kind of on the fly, off the cuff, just to discuss all the different up-and-comings that we had over the last 24, 48 hours since basically Friday morning. Friday morning was when we saw a return to form, and a lot of our models were indicating that something could develop. Saturday, things really amped up, and now as of today, as you saw, especially with our Euro, things continue to go up. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see the probabilities with this go up over the next few days as well, and I hope it does, because honestly, it's going to be October 30th tomorrow. I would definitely like to see at least a 30-40% chance with the formation in the next 7 days going up quick. I know we don't have anything out there with an X just yet, but I would definitely up this to about a 30-40% chance if that were me. In fact, internal Wxcenter Nazario would now put about a 30-40% chance on this over the next 7 days as opposed to where Hurricane Center is at 20%. And you never know. Maybe we'll see at 8 p.m. tonight we'll have a 30-40% mark on that. We'll see, because we saw we could have formation as early as November 2nd, November 3rd. So we'll see what happens, guys. Anyways, thank you for watching. Carmen, thanks again, Nazario. Good to see you hydrating. This helped. Yep, you're responsible for that, definitely. You're the one that kind of encouraged me to keep my water bottle close for these long-winded spiels. Weather tracker is very welcome. Scrooge McDuck 0Z will be telling. Yes, will be very telling. I agree. And then we'll see what happens. I think Halloween, we're going to have a very good idea of what's going to happen. While we're over here saying trick or treat, that storm might be saying trick or treat in the Caribbean. So we'll wait and see. Just make sure that you're exploring all possibilities with this. Don't let anybody downplay this, guys. Please don't. We have too many people in front of it. Too many people in front of it. That's the big thing. There's no storm yet. There's no concrete evidence. I mean, there's a lot of evidence, but there's nothing concrete and certain right now. We're still forecasting, but please, if you go across any other weather channels or if you go on social media and you see people not emphasizing this, please either tell them, to start doing so or encourage people to at least kind of keep another eye open, because, that's my concern, is if we had a yellow blob out here, then heck yeah, we can sit back and relax and not stress and just kind of play around with the models. But the fact that we have a blob here in such close, that's like a minefield. Anywhere a storm forms, it's going to hit something. It's like wandering through the dark of an open warehouse. You're not going to fall into anything. If you go wandering in the dark through a grocery store or a library, you're going to knock something off the shelf, and it's the same concept here. If you had a storm forming in the Atlantic, smooth sailing for at least 5 to 7 days. You get something forming in the South of Dominican Republic, and within 2 to 4 days, it's knocking on your door in the Caribbean. So definitely time to explore all options. So that's kind of where I'm at. We got to keep an eye out. I'm raising concern because it's too close for comfort. Ivan taught me so much. I've been prepared ever since, down to the washboard. Amen. I say to that, Melita, thank you. Very glad to hear that. Send it to the Gulf of Mexico. We didn't get squat this year, and Louisiana needs rain. It's not out of the realm of possibility, but I definitely think this is more of a Cayman Islands, Jamaica, Cuba, Florida, Bahamas issue. Definitely. You guys are probably going to see a frontal system come through eventually that's going to amp up your rain chances. But yeah, guys, we're going to go ahead and call it a day. We'll see you soon. If you have any questions that pop up last minute, please leave them in the comments. Reach out to me on Instagram, Wxcenter_Nazario. Happy to strike up a conversation, go over some more information with you guys. But until then, we'll see you tomorrow, 6 p.m. for our next full segment, 8 p.m. for our Monday night Tropics Talk. And who knows what Monday night's going to bring. We might be back in here for another long-winded examination of what's unfolded during Monday. We'll see what tonight looks like and what tomorrow brings and what the rest of the week brings for that matter, because it might be game time. But all right, folks, we'll see you soon. This is Wxcenter Nazario signing out.